Hi everybody, welcome to the Mom Series, The Misunderstanding of Multiplicity. My name is Maria. I hope you're all doing well. Happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day. This is my Independence Day video, where I just wanted to say a few things and say hello to people. And I will share, as I always do whenever I do a video on tough topics, as you've known over the years. Since 2007, I have tried to parlay knitting, crochet, baking, cooking, tatting, embroidery into tough topics. So this is a blanket I am working on today, and it's a variation of a blanket um, which was originally called the Midwife blanket, and I'll show that to you in a second. Trying to get some light in here. No, I want you to be able to see the detail in this, if it makes it a little bit darker or yellow or change the light. Okay, so this particular pattern is a variation of a pattern that came out in the 40s, 1940s, 50s, during World War II, and it was generated mostly in the UK, so in London. And originally, Patton's had a printed version of this, and it was called the Little Flower blanket. And it was given to many babies, and it was also given to orphanages. Women would knit them and donate them during wartime for christenings, because you could take these little flowers right here, and you could wash and block them and pin the bottom of them, and they would be crosses. So they kind of doubled as women that were having babies with their husbands away at war, or young women, or poor blankets. There was a whole story behind them. And also then it became the Little Flower blanket. And then a lot of people called it the Little Dolly blanket because little girls were given a blanket for their doll. So there's many, many variations, but the beauty of it is in that aesthetic of that vintage crochet filet grid that we see going on here on the side and throughout it. That's what makes it really retro and work really lovely for variations, is that it's a simple 7-row repeat. Well, actually, it's a 7-row foundation, a setup of a 7-row foundation, and then you do the same. Let me think about that. Same 6 rows over and over and over again. So it's 7 rows, and then you do 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 2 through 7 over and over and over again. So you do the 5 rows over and over and over again. 6 rows. I'm sorry. Let me think. 1. Yeah. 2. So you do 6 rows over and over and over again. So it's 7 rows, then you repeat 6 rows over and over again. For a baby blanket, you're going to go ahead and cast on a multiple of 16 plus 6. That is what the multiple is for any of these. If you wanted to do the dragonfly or the flower, I have another one here which I'll grab to show you really quick. I have a couple of them going. I like to keep a couple things going on the hook at once, so that, oh, there goes my yarn. So if I get tired of doing one, I just switch to another. So this is the actual original called Midwife blanket. And this one is 11 blocks long, so it's pretty wide. And you have this beautiful filet grid border in it already, but you can go ahead and play in those spaces and make a really pretty border in a different color. You can mix and match colors. You can mix and match blocks. You can either cut and rejoin colors when you want to change anywhere, Or you can, what I would do is, I've worked out quite a few of these now, so what I would do is probably do like maybe maybe 2 blocks at a time, and then work them up vertically and maybe do 2, 4, 6 in one color, and then cut and fasten off, and then do another batch of rows in different colors, and I'd mix and match them like a quilt. And then because this works up in a multiple of 16, I'm gonna get this back on the hook, but because this works up in a multiple of 16 plus 6 makes 1 block, and you have that filet grid border all the way around it, it's really nice. You can play with it and assemble pieces very easily, and 1, 2, 3, and just from there mix and match. The yarns there is no, you can use any yarn with this, any yarn will work, except I would stay away from short short self-striping variegated yarns, because I think that would look too busy. So if you have a really splashy, fractal, psychedelic kind of party yarn, it's flipping colors all over the place, really short self-striping, you won't see the crosses or flowers, whatever you decide to do. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine, her mom made this blanket when she was really young. She was born to an orphanage in New York in the 50s, and her mom was a nursemaid in a very well-known orphanage through Catholic Charities, and she used to make these blankets as she took care of the children. And then when the families would adopt, they would give them these blankets as part of a welcome baby, welcome your family, here you go. They would put the baby in one of these, okay? And it would double as like a layette, but also a christening blanket at the time, because you can see the little, it could be flowers or crosses. So they were usually in white, but my friend's mom took to starting to make little ones in the colors of the day that they had available in the 40s and 50s, which were like usually yellow, sometimes green, so pastels, blue, pink, and whites. So that's what they made them in. The pattern put near disappeared from print. It went out of print. It was originally in patents in 1940s, and it was called the Little Flower blanket, also known as the Celtic Cross christening blanket. Okay. It disappeared, and then it became available again in the 50s through Coates and Clark, and better known as Red Heart, and that was under World War II women's apparel, baby apparel, and household apparel, and people started making tablecloths, curtains, table runners. They used lace. You can use any yarn. There is no gauge. Just I would stick more to solid colors or solid, not a lot of busyness in it. But again, if you wanted to switch up colors, I've seen blankets where they switch up colors. You can still keep the open lace shape and the borders, which are so sweet. I just wouldn't, I would go by either rows or blocks, or you could, I guess, do like granny square. You could do like one pink, one blue, one purple, one yellow. You could do this all over the place, and then just assemble them, because you have this beautiful area to work in to do either a whip stitch, really simple, or a I think I would want to keep those showing, so you could do a crisscross stitch. You could do a mattress stitch. So assembly, you would lose a little bit of the border in between here and across, but you could do like a duplicate stitch over it too. There's so many possibilities with this, and just crocheting it plain is beautiful. But if you were gonna like cut and fasten off and join, that would be a lot of fastening off for each block. So it's a multiple of 16 plus 6. You do row 1 through 7, then you do row 2 through 7 over and over again. For a baby blanket like stroller size, you're going to probably repeat 2 through 7 10 more times. This is Lion Brand Pound of Love Antique White, 16 ounces, and it is a pound of love. It's a 4 medium worst weight, but it does work up kind of like a baby yarn too. See, it's got a good thickness to it. Okay, so this one here, I don't have the ball band to show you. I thought I took it out, but I didn't. Maybe I set it somewhere. This one here is, whoops, wrong one. Red Heart Baby Soft Scott Lavender. So it's a little bit of a lighter. It's kind of like excuse me. I would say it's comparable lavender. I would say it's comparable for medium worsted weight, but baby got a little bit of mercuration and shine to it. I wouldn't get anything that's too mercurized, but a comparable to this would be Red Heart Super Saver Soft White, or any of the Super Saver DKs, or Karen Simply Soft. It's perfect match for Karen Simply Soft. There's no gauge. I'm saying match in the way it works out. I guess that's what I'm saying. Okay. Well, now I don't guess. I know that's what I'm saying. None of this. I'm tired of people saying. Sounds like. If that makes sense. No, it does make sense. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, so here are all the different things you can do with this 7-row repeat. You can really play with it. You can keep making flowers, or you can go on and make butterflies and more flowers, or crosses, whatever you want to make them to be, and daffodils. Daffodils. I keep thinking of damsodils. Dragonflies. But if you wanted to, you could make your dragonfly tail longer. But there's so much you can do with this pattern. So where I found all the goodies for this one and all the variations was at Hank and Holly out here on YouTube. So I wanted to share that. The written pattern is right here. And I found that at Rebecca Langford, aka Little Crochet Monkey, who used to be out here, now is Yarn Plus Chai, or Yarn and Chai. Did the history on it and wrote up the pattern. A lot of people have come out and done tutorials on it and their variation of it with their personal borders. You can also go ahead and weave some ribbon in it and around it, make your own border or not. So there's just a bunch of wonderful things you can do with it. Any crochet hook size. I've been using a 5.0 H and a 4.50 G. I've been going between 2 yarns, or 2 hook sizes for the yarn I'm using. Been using 4.50 for the, for the Red Heart Super Saver, and 4.50 for the Karen Simply Soft Red Heart Super Savers Soft White, and Baby Soft Steps Red Heart Lavender. So because there's no gauge, you don't need a measuring thing, you just go by how big you want it. All right, so what I wanted to quickly talk about, just if you want to do that, it's a lot of fun. The show it debuted on is called Call the Midwife, and I just started watching it. Of course, now I'm hooked because I wanted to go look up this blanket and see it debut, and it's an awesome show. I don't know how I didn't know about it before, but I'm glad I know about it now. I've been marathoning it. So, okay, so I'm going to talk about Bill Cosby. I want to talk about Britney Spears, and I want to talk about phrases that we say that I don't understand anymore. That I think we are using. Possibly my own interpretation is that we're using them as buzz phrases for a lack of accountability. Have you noticed how many times people say moving forward? Well, moving forward. We're moving forward now. Moving forward. And let me tell you, I went and paid a bill for 5 years to the same place, to the same lady, every month for so many months, and handed her cash and handed a friend money to drive me there, and went there to get a receipt in my hand and hand her cash, and she would write it out. Right, paid, and stamp it with the date on there. I go home with my little yellow receipt and think, all set. Until I get a letter in the mail saying you didn't pay. About a week later, you didn't pay. And she would actually, her penmanship would be on there. She'd say, I'm sorry, I didn't get your payment. Well, I put up with 4 years of her saying, oh God, I'm sorry, that didn't make it into the mail, Ben, whatever. Moving forward for next month. Ooh, it looks like I didn't process it that day. I put it in the blue envelope. I know you saw me put your cash in the blue envelope because I was like, what are you doing with my money? What are you going to lunch? Do you need lunch? What are you doing? It was always moving forward. Next month, I'll do this. Or I know I couldn't see that. You know what? I went to count it up and I counted it wrong. So finally, I said, I'm not moving forward. Not moving forward because you keep doing the same thing. And you leave a big old mess. See, every time I have to pick up the phone and say, hello, I was there. Remember me? I was there 5 days ago paying you, saying, hello, how are you? Blah, 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 right? You put the money in the blue envelope, zipped it up, gave me the receipt. You cut the pink slip. I had the yellow slip. The white slip went in the bag. What? Made copies of it. But here I am having to pick up the phone again. So I guess we're not moving forward, are we? It's like that in life with a lot of things that are going on right now. People are quick to say, well, let's move forward now. Okay, and now let's move forward. But I don't move forward when things don't change. All right, that said, a lot of people are really espousing about their boundaries now, personal boundaries, like it's part of self-care. Oh my gosh, I'm self-care, treat myself, and I've got boundaries now. Boundaries. Don't talk to me, I got boundaries. We're not going to have that subject. Boundaries. Yeah. You don't know what happens to me when we talk about that. No, no. La 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 la. That's what, have we all become little children that just are not aware of our personal space, but do know that there is such a thing as called conflict resolution, and in order to get to a solved problem, we have to face the situation. We cannot just say, meh. Boundaries. So that's another one. So moving forward, boundaries being used as excuses. And when people say, I'm just done with that person and they have to hit rock bottom, just leave them. Your problem is you keep trying to be in their life and support them and be at where they're at and understand you have to let them hit rock bottom. How about when you let a person hit rock bottom and the first thing you see is they adjust to their rock bottom? Because we were created to adjust and adapt and live and survive. So you put a person in a 7x11 cell, they're going to lay there, twiddle their thumbs till it's time to go eat. They're going to eat, take some toilet time, maybe do some exercise, maybe do some praying, meditating, whistle a tune, wait till it's time to go eat again. Maybe read a book in between, right? Maybe get a visitor or go out to the day room. People adjust to their rock bottom. People have everything taken away from them, are homeless on Skid Row, and they find a place to go and people to hang out with, and they find a way to get over. They adjust. So that's not the answer either. Another thing is, like I said earlier, if that makes sense. I'm going to tell you 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 = 2. And if I add 2 to that, we've got 4. And if I add 2 to that, we got 6. If that makes sense. If that makes sense. You hear people saying this all the time? If that makes sense. What is that? Shucking responsibility and saying, I don't know if it makes sense. You tell me if it makes sense. I'm leaving that to you. I'm not taking responsibility for saying that makes sense. You tell me if it makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense. Here, you go tell me. What is that? How about, oh, there's so many of them. I can't even begin to. It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. No. What if it's not? What if you know it's not? Do you just keep saying it is what it is? Do we just keep agreeing it is what it is? What if it's not? I firmly believe in all my lived experience that most times it's a bajillion things more than it just is what it is. And those things that it really is, the more needs to be addressed, needs attention or intervention, or at least just a little nod, like like just a directional, like looks like, smells like, could be. You think? Makes sense? Sometimes it is not what it is. It's something entirely different, and we have to be able to say that. There's also a whole lot of people everywhere now speaking their truth. I have to speak my truth. Good. Speak your truth. I'll speak my truth too. Guess what? Your truth is based on your reality, on your belief system, on what you've been told your whole life, and on what you've chosen to believe. And yes, on your lived experience, but it's subjective to your experience. So your truth, and here's the thing, people are speaking their truths and saying, you can't question it. It's my truth. I hear nothing. I spoke my truth. Just because it's my truth or your truth doesn't mean it's anybody else's. And yet we're accepting it verbatim as truth. This is why the Me Too movement has gone off the hook. Which leads me to, it's very difficult for me to talk about this with my lived experience. It's very, very difficult for me to say, as an advocate and activist, a rape counselor, a peer coach, a trained social worker, a person that was diagnosed DID, MPD, has suffered with post-traumatic stress and lost so much, and been out here and been so vulnerable and authentic with all of you. And that's another thing. Why are we superseding everything we say with, I'm going to be raw and real and vulnerable and deep and genuine right now. What, were you not lying? Were you lying before? Were you not being genuine? Were you being disingenuous? Were you making up stuff before? And now you're finally going to be, because you shouldn't have to say, I'm going to be authentic, or I'm going to get vulnerable, or I'm going to be genuine. That's a given. If you have to, what's the word I want? Proceed, proscure, no. If you have to, not disclaimer, if you have to, before something, it'll come to me. If you have to proclaim, I'll just use that word for right now, I'm having a word bindage problem. If you have to address a topic by first saying, I'm going to be genuine, or I'm going to be authentic, or vulnerable, you're telling me you haven't been vulnerable, authentic, genuine all this time. You haven't been. Like there's no reason for somebody to say, I would never lie to you before telling you something, or I'm going to be completely honest with you, or you can trust me. I'm telling you, you can trust me. It kind of flips. It works the opposite way. It's like there's no reason to have to say that to somebody who truly trusts you, who knows you well. So I'm going to preference that's the word I want, preference. There's no need to preference that with all that. So I'm not going to preference this. The people that know me out here, you know me. You know most of my story. We've been in unlisted videos. We've been in chat. We've known each other a long time now. I've shared a lot. For those of you that don't know me, get to know me. There are some people that deleted me on Facebook and then wrote me wanting to know why in the world I would congratulate Bill Cosby for getting out of jail. I don't believe he ever belonged there. First of all, at 80-something years old, there's only so long you can go to jail. Number two, he was accused of doing harm to one woman. That's all. We have to keep in mind, it was never proven that he raped, molested, or drugged 60 other women that came forward. See, one woman came forward, Andrea Constead, and she said, he did this to me. And she was found uncredible. And the district attorney, the defense attorney said to Mr. Cosby, if you admit to having ever drugged a woman in the past before you had sex with them, I'll make sure you don't get charged of all these other women now coming forward. See, because it was a whole other lawsuit that this one woman was doing, and she didn't have a lot of evidence. But she was going to go forward with a civil suit, and she got $3.3 million. Okay? When she came forward, all the other 60 women came forward, and this is the problem with the Me Too movement. So one comes forward, one gets money, one is found credible through usually a civil suit or something. There's never any real evidence. It's he said, she said, and then it's based on character and the business they're in and their opportunity. Okay, so I'm not defending Harvey Weinstein because I know there's a casting couch in Hollywood, but a whole lot more women jumped on that bandwagon too. I'm not defending Jeffrey Epstein but a whole lot more women jumped on that too, just because they were at the island, on the plane, or at the hotel. It's like me saying, finding out that a teacher was charged and was accused and charged with molesting someone, and me realizing I had that teacher. when I was younger, and I always had icky feelings around that teacher. And now going there, saying, did that to me too. Me too. There's too many women doing that. We have gone too far. We started off too far to the left, where repressed memory was a stink rabbit hole that just kept going and going and going, which you couldn't get back up from. And we were told, oh, you had more trauma, you invented another alter for that trauma, another alter for this trauma, another alter for that trauma. And oh my God, how many people could traumatize me, right? To make all these alters, that each trauma created another, each event was traumatic, created another alter, right? Now, what women are being told is that and men, when they go through a trauma, and when you were a victim, you were re-traumatized by the interrogation and the investigation if you want to press charges. You were. What women went through, and children in adult and adults in adult protective, in child abuse accusations, pictures of the children, questioning, interrogating their story. And if it ever changed up a little bit, well, they weren't credible, right? But now there's this XI training, look it up, XI trauma approach based training that looks at abuse, and basically says because the brain was traumatized, everything is scrambled and the story doesn't have to be correct. The weather could be wrong. The person could have not had any tattoos on them that the person said they did. It could not even be the person that they said, or the date, or the time, or the place, and we can't question it. You can't question it. So now we're to, before it was prove this person's guilty. You prove it. They're innocent until proven guilty, and you got nothing. We're going to turn it on you. Now it's innocent, or it was innocent until proven guilty. Now it's guilty until proven innocent, and everyone is just cancel culture, and that does nobody any good. And if you know me and you know me out here, you know I'm for all vulnerable, not just sexually abused, incest survivors, child abuse, neglect, emotional abuse. I'm just that all vulnerable, falsely accused, and those that did abuse, looking at why. What transgenerationally happened in their life? What caused them to be the way they are? I look at all aspects of it. I'm a very holistic approached person, very eclectic. I don't just, this is the bad person and therefore, no. So I look at how we make ourselves all more vulnerable by just saying, he did it, and then everybody else coming along and saying, I was alone with him too, and I didn't feel good when I left. I don't really remember getting home that night. Oh my gosh, he could have done something to me. Me too. That does happen. That does happen. And that's why men have been calling it, since repressed memory days in the 80s and 90s, and daycare teachers and priests and everything else have been calling it witch hunts. Just go back and do your history on the daycare scare in the 80s. We're there again. It's witch hunts. And, nobody likes to hear that, but it is true. That is the history of it. And remember, I said in the beginning of this is my independent video. I will not be micromanaged or not told to come out and do my videos anymore. I've been on all sides of this. Accused, falsely accused. I've seen people in my family accused, falsely accused. I've accused people. I have. I've accused people in my family because I believed certain family members. I believe, well, they're all the problem, when really it was just a whole big dynamic that was messed up in the whole family. It's never one person. It's the whole family. It's the whole family. It's never one person's problem. It's the whole family, and it's every caretaker. And it's important that we keep that in mind. With Bill Cosby, I think that I think being a man of his status, high profile, and his color and culture during that time period, I think a lot of women came to him for a nod, for a good word, for point me in the right direction, a little mentorship. And he may have been interested in women and gotten the idea that from his era of slipping women Mickeys, which was very much in the media then, the heroes of the day in the media slipped women Mickeys. They would just, they wanted to get a woman home, they would open up a pill, put it in their drink, or add extra booze to their drink and get them a little loosened up. Bill Cosby, that whole era grew up with seeing media depictions of men pretty much wrestling women who were screaming, no, 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 and even slapping them, fighting them off, and then submitting, and then being all gaga and in love with them. So, a very mixed message, just like people grew up with it was cool to smoke cigarettes. People grew up with a woman's no, really, eventually will be yes, I'm going in the right direction because they're screaming no and they're still here. Even if they slap me, that means you really got them hot and bothered. So the no means yes. And they grew up seeing people slip the Spanish fly or the Mickey. It's not right. It's never right. Nobody should ever be raped or taken advantage of or drugged ever against their will. Ever. But a deal was made from the the defense attorney. He said, you admit decades ago you drugged women before you had sex with them. And he withstood, I am innocent, I did not do. And Andrea Constead said, I cannot speak about the particulars of the settlement. I just encourage women and men to continue to come forward and not to let them be afraid to come forward. This is not me saying, congratulations to a rapist. I don't believe he is a rapist. So that's the difference. And I hope he will tell his story. I see in Rochester, New York locally, a principal. It started with one person made an accusation. There was no credibility to the one accusation, but there was some credibility to part of what she said, and I don't know where the guy got his legal whatever from, but he admitted to part of it, which then brought 20 more accusations, and now the numbers are growing. So I'm always cautious when numbers start growing, whether you go to therapy and you're diagnosed with DID, MPD, and suddenly you've got 100 million alters and worlds and parallel existences and a different alter for every feeling, emotion, everything, every behavior, every activity, everything, a different event that traumatized everything. And I'm always very cautious of numbers that grow with abuse cases. I believe a lot of children were abused in Catholic schools and churches. I believe a lot of people were abused in churches. I believe a lot of people have been abused in the workforce. Um, that said, uh, I don't, I, a whole lot of things have to change. And this particular case with Bill Cosby, um, he did his time. He did almost 3 years. He paid $3.3 million. Um, and that doesn't give 60 other women the right to jump on and say, me too. Especially a couple of them that I can name, but I won't, that I know have never been a victim of anything. you know. So that's all I really wanted to say, you guys, is if you know me, you don't have to just delete and run and be like, oh my God, you're defending a rapist. No, no, no. Here's a little something. Years ago, as a child protective worker, we were always told children will never lie about abuse. As a rape counselor, we were also told women will never lie about being raped. That's not true. We know it's not true now. And when you get repressed memory and now the broken trauma mind in the middle of it, and a little bit of therapy and leading, and somebody that doesn't want to go far enough to maybe hurt a family member and say who it really was, or really get brave and courageous and say who it really was, and they have an easy target like a producer, a cuckoo uncle, a coach that somebody else has already made a claim against, um, a brother, a half brother that somebody already said bad things about, and everybody believes it, you know. If somebody already believes trash about somebody, it's easy to make them a target. Harder to go for the person that actually did do the deed that everyone thinks wonderful things of. So, that's all I wanted to say, and I hope everybody's having a great 4th of July. We got a little picnic going out there in the courtyard. We got grills and tables and families getting together, and it smells like good food to me. I'm gonna go outside and get some fresh air. My cat keeps testing. I don't know if you can see. He keeps going in the window to check out. Hello, to check out the aromas. I think there's some white hots going. Yeah, Upper Western New York, we got the white hots, so I can definitely smell those going. And I'll make another video later. You know, I hope you'll try these patterns. They're a lot of fun. Go to Fiber Spider for a time-stamped tutorial. Holly and Hank, or Hank and Holly, I gotta get that right. There's so many. Just type in Call the Midwife blanket crochet and variations of it, and you'll find it. It's a lot of fun. I hope you're all having a really sweet, wonderful day. If you know me on Facebook, you know that I have always worn my emotions on my sleeve, and I share it all. And I am going to continue to share it all. I've made 3 videos now that have not uploaded because I feel like somebody's trying to micromanage the situation, but more about that later. I'm going to get back to writing my poetry and doing more content out here that is personally interesting to me. I find it very interesting, the Me Too movement, the Me Too Too Much, I call it, and also the phrases we use now to just get through post-pandemic, mid-pandemic, and just everything that's going on right now. So, yeah. Oh, they got chickens. They got whole freaking chickens and ribs out there. Oh my Lord. I thought they just had some hot dogs. Those are ribs and chicken. They got big ribs and big chicken and sausage. Okay. Have fun today. Take care, everyone. Thanks for hanging with me, and happy 4th of July. That's my independent. That's me being independent. Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.